inaugural year, there have been a lot of curiosity about who the founder is and how all of this got started. I wanted to create something that would, no matter what your background is, where you're from, or what you look like, you could identify and take some degree of ownership in this event. It shouldn't be as much about me as it is about the millennials who are sitting here. Mr. Bernard J. Tyson is the chairman and chief executive officer of Kaiser Permanente. The reason that I wanted to introduce Mr. Tyson personally is because when we started planning for Millennial Week 2015, I started to think about people that were engaging millennials in a very meaningful way and doing so boldly.
Most important thing that you should be thinking about, with all due respect to big, great companies like Kaiser Permanente and Wells Fargo and PG&E and you name it, Citibank, all these great companies, what you should be thinking about is how will I really leverage my capabilities, my talent, my brand, you Incorporated, that then contributes to the brands of great organizations that I want to be a part of.
As a leader of the health industry and as a mother of 2 millennial-aged daughters, I'm excited about how you and your peers are going to shape our future. We need you. We need your fresh perspective, your talent, and your commitment to making a difference in this world.
I wanted to be here to let you know that the Bowser administration is indeed focused on the issues of concern for you. And I would also invite you to help us think about ways to continue to engage you in the civic life that is our city.
Looking ahead to 2016, I put this question to you all. Does the millennial vote even matter to politicians?
Millennials are definitely not a monolithic voting bloc. There's a tendency, especially among pundits, to say millennials are one voter group, but the fact of the matter is we're an 80 million strong generation who have feelings and opinions that are as diverse as any other generation. So to answer your question, do we matter? Absolutely. We have proven, time and time again that we can swing any election, whether it's on the congressional level, the gubernatorial level, or the presidential level. So any politician would be very unwise to count out younger voters, but they shouldn't necessarily stereotype us that we're all the same.
The millennial vote does matter, and it matters because we're engaging in so many different issues, from the social aspects to the hard economic factors. There's an entire subsection of millennials that grew up with President Obama as their president that hasn't been able to find a job post-graduation, that hasn't been able to really secure a future for themselves. And so when we're talking about parties and candidates reaching out to them, there's also a big distinction of the George Bush millennials and the President Obama millennials. And so we'll see how that plays out come 2016.
I think we will absolutely come out in the primaries. I think that we're absolutely involved and that we're definitely paying attention to the campaigns as they stand. Because like I mentioned in the panel, we have more skin in the game in this election than ever before, and the candidates that are already in the race are ones who are, for one reason or another, just capturing the public discourse and really making it about the issues.
So looking ahead to 2016, how are candidates appealing or trying to appeal to this generation? How can they? And how can they do it in a way that doesn't seem kind of hokey?
It has to go beyond that. They can't just say, look, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter. It has to be more. And I think this is where the responsibility is with the campaigns. They need to communicate to millennials and reach out to them in a way that they understand. Talk to them about student loans, not just in a broad policy platform, not in a speech that you would deliver at a town hall. They have to have that engagement, and I think that's not only incumbent on the candidate, but also the campaigns themselves. They have to have staffers that understand the language and what millennials want to talk about, and be able to chase their vote, not by saying, I'm for this and this, but explain how that affects you.
I tend to see this as a very old-fashioned problem. You talk to people. What was interesting and remarkable about the Obama campaign in 2008 wasn't that it was good on Facebook or good on Twitter. It was that it had this army of people going door to door to door to talking to people. Talking to people at college campuses, at community colleges, at high schools, everywhere. And so if the campaigns want to reach millennials, I think they should not think of it as this independent problem, but just a subset of how do we reach voters and how do we reach voters who are for us problem.
Millennials want to hear specific solutions to how we can fix the political system, because although we're extremely idealistic and we care about making change, we're extremely pessimistic about that happening in the political sector. And so for our generation to see candidates who are optimistic and who have tangible, specific solutions to revitalize the political system so it's a place where things get done, that will be the candidate that gets a lot of support. I think that is the top issue for our generation.
We're the highest, most educated generation in the history of America. Candidates can talk to us, parties can talk to us about issues. And it's not all the time the social issue that matters. There's a wide gamut from what the state of the economy is to income inequality to poverty. I think it's going to be a huge thing in this election. So as much as the messenger is important, the message is primary here.
You have to give people something to vote for, ultimately. Populism works in politics. Populism works in social media. Big value statements and big ideas work in mobilizing people. That was clear under the Obama campaign. But ultimately, you have to give people something to vote for. And I also think the candidates who articulate wilder, crazier, and newer ideas tend to win the popularity contest.
I remember 3 years ago we said we need candidates to vote for. That's what millennials are looking for. And unfortunately, we have too many politicians who are extremely ambiguous about their positions. I think two things that really matter, especially for social media, are clarity and authenticity. So when you see candidates who are waffling around on certain positions, they are not going to be resonating with millennials.
It's easiest to get your face in front of millennials by the way that they're communicating with each other, by Snapchat, by Periscope, by Meerkat, all of these great new technological tools. That's where millennials are communicating with each other. A millennial is much less likely to go to a campaign rally and sit there, or to log onto a website and read through the policy points. But to attract them in a fun, exciting way, that's somewhat similar to what we saw Barack Obama do in 2008 when he was a senator. Of course, the technology was much different then, but that was able to get people excited, or at least get them on their radar so they at least go and start learning more about the candidate.
What is the issue, or is there an issue that really matters to this generation that you think isn't being talked about enough?
Two issues that millennials are facing right now is home ownership and student loan debt. You see the articles all the time, millennials priced out of so many markets, not only because home ownership is very expensive, but the incentives aren't there, and we all have a crushing amount of student debt, myself included. So it's almost like we can't get ahead. And I think the candidate that can really speak to those issues beyond just the broad strokes, beyond just getting the applause line, will certainly get the attention of a lot of people who might not otherwise be interested in politics, or might not be out there casting their vote, because that's a very relatable thing. Those are the next goals in life. That's on a lot of people's minds, and that's important.
Politicians should be talking more about how we can increase the growth of entrepreneurship in our country. Since 1980, virtually all net new job creation has come from businesses under the age of 5. That's where the entrepreneurial growth is, and not surprisingly, most millennials and people in their 20s and 30s have been the founders of those startups. So we need to be providing them with more support.
I think if any candidate really steps up and takes the mantle and says, I'm going to be the drug reform candidate in 2016, they're going to have a lot of energetic people behind them.
A politician who can connect their policy vision, their political vision, to tangible, concrete steps for ordinary people to get involved, whether that's volunteering, whether that's sort of spearheading programs and actually enlist communities of all kinds of people in accomplishing their goals, is someone who might be able to actually grab support from young people insofar that there's support to be grabbed.
I think millennials are looking for someone to articulate a particular relationship for them to government and to the public. I think they're looking for someone who can connect their impulse to want to do something to something concrete that government can do. And I think part of the challenge of the past 6 years or so is that there hasn't really been that connection, that people have felt disconnected from their voting to what happened in their communities and in their country.